How you guys feeling? Good, good. Okay, so you have to forgive. Sometimes this word intensity kind of tends to take over for us. And again, those folks over the back, if you guys would, in the vendor section, we can hear what you're saying, so we got to make sure, please, I've been asked to make sure we respect that. So we are here to talk about marketing. You know, what's really fascinating about marketing is that it's been around forever. Even in ancient times, the Chinese and people in India would use persuasion skills through their communication as their differentiator to be able to sell their products and service. Did you even know that gladiators used to get paid to wear different products as they go out and fight? It's true. I mean, think back to the day, cowboy movies where posters and billboards, snake oil salesmen, all that stuff, that's all marketing. And before the 1900s, it was about testing one. Okay, we're there. Even back then, testing 1, 2, 3. We're good. It's going in and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So even back then, 1, 2. I'm just going to use this. So even back then, it was something that was used. Posters, billboards, magazines, all those different elements were still marketing. And then we started getting into TV, radio, and then the computer came along, and then that beautiful little smartphone, iPhone, where we have in the palm of our hands, I see cameras right now, the power to change our brand, the power to affect people. And so as we think about all of those different elements, I want to go back to something that's been around for over 2,000 years. Over 2,000 years. I'm going to test this way. And if you've heard of Aristotle, still going in and out, isn't it? Yeah, all right. So you've heard of Aristotle. He's been around for 2,000 years, and he was the first person to talk about argumentative thought, or persuasion, if you will. That is the one thing everybody in this room has in common. We are all here to influence behavior and thought, to persuade somebody to our way of thinking. How many parents are in the room? Show me hands. You also are in the world of influence and persuasion. You got to brush your teeth, take a shower, right? Eat those vegetables, all those things that we have to persuade people to do. If you're a teacher, if you're a loan officer, all those things all, again, go down to that. And what he says is there are 3 things that need to happen. And if you have a piece of paper and a pen, you write them down. If not, just remember these, or at least Google them. But 3 things that need to happen, or what he called 3 emotional or motivational appeals. 3 things that needed to happen for us to feel that we can move from one way of thinking to another. And that was we had to have ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, those are Greek words that really don't mean much. Some of us maybe heard that. So what does that mean? Let's talk about ethos for a minute. My favorite. Ethos is our credibility, our character. So imagine, I'm going to do 2 classes here, 2 breakout sessions. One is how to really maintain a healthy hair. And so I really would like everybody to join. Why? Was something funny? No, it's kind of a ridiculous class, right? But the other class I'm doing is the menstrual cycle, how to deal with it, and how to cope with it and adapt. And it's absolutely ridiculous, right? Because number one, I have no ethos in any of those 2 areas, right? It's no different than getting advice on how to lose weight from somebody who's overweight. Or maybe how to get advice on how to make money from somebody who's broke. How many people get that phone call from that broke friend of yours saying, hey, you're interested in making a couple of $1,000 extra a month? And you're thinking, not by you. And so we know that word ethos is critical. It's our credibility, it's our character, it's who we are. And so then we have this thing called pathos, right? Pathos is the emotional appeal. Ethos is good, it's credibility. I believe who you are, it's credible. A doctor says, you know what, Bill, you got to lose weight and exercise more. And Bill says, you're right, Doc, I'll start next week. Well, why not start now? Well, the doctor had ethos, he was credible, but he had no pathos, which is the emotional appeal. See, without emotions, without the emotional appeal, we don't act. That's part of the challenge with events like this, of any event, is that we come away with thoughts. We see people who have massive ethos. You stand on stage, you have a little bit of automatic ethos just by being up here. You see Ryan Eiler, who's got the great videos. All of that is ethos, and we take those ideas, but what do we do when we get home? Without the pathos component, we end up doing nothing. We've all been to that where we take great notes at an event and we get home and we're like, all right, oh wait, client's calling. My son needs a ride. I've got to pay this bill. And all of a sudden that emotion wears off. And so the third one is what he thought was the most powerful, which was logos. It was the logical appeal. Now, 2,000 years ago, logical argument, I think, was a pretty compelling thing. If you could write it and talk about a compelling argument and you read it, it carried a lot of weight. But I think that's being challenged in today's world where everybody has a camera, everything's being publicized, everything's being documented. And so we have to put all three of those together. And the logos is that logical appeal. That's your call to action. And so I share that with you because today you have an opportunity with all of the rooms that are going on in the back with the headshots. The right headshot, I'm gonna tell you folks, can change your marketing, can change your brand. If you move away from the Pro X headshot, right, where they have you stand funny and you get into that real live headshot, something that you're doing, something you love, or that right camera angle and the right lighting, all of a sudden can build some immediate ethos. Now, here's an interesting thing about ethos. We don't own our ethos. I want you to think about that for a minute. We don't own our ethos. How many times have you ever gone to see a speaker or you meet somebody who, wow, they're really great, I've heard really great things about them, and then you see them speak and they absolutely suck. We take the ethos back because I don't own my ethos, you do. And when you understand that your audience owns your ethos, you begin to respect the process. You begin to respect how this whole thing works. And then it's a natural humility that has to follow when you realize that when you are in front of a group, if you're meeting with a client, if you're talking to your kids, it is a moment of value creation and that's it. If you don't add value, ethos is pulled. And so when we think about how to execute these things, you have another opportunity there with video. You have some great video coaches that are back there. And one of the things that I have been actually working on, and I got to tell you, the marketing piece is not my strong suit. Now, some people say that I'm a great marketer. I'm not. I have an eye for good quality video and photos. But when you talk to the real marketers, the people who are out there generating leads and pushing funnels, that is a skill set. And those are the people that are out there helping you because they have logos. They have the logical process on what it is that they want to do. And so when you think about ethos as part of what doing video and having good content, being able to share it, pathos is the ability to tell that story, who you are. But what's funny is when it comes to video and it comes to even being on a stage, is that pathos, that story that we want to tell, that one that might connect with someone, is the one that little voice on your shoulder comes up and says, yeah, nobody wants to hear that story about when you were a kid. Nobody wants to hear that story about your parents fighting and your dad leaving and never coming back. But yet, that moment you share that story is that moment you actually connect with someone. And I'll tell you, there's a huge opportunity right now in a world where everyone's doing video, everyone's marketing, and that opportunity is to actually share something and actually connect. I tell people all the time, in fact, in my last TED Talk, one of the main themes is that adversity is currency. In fact, I think adversity, your ability to tell stories, is one of the most powerful currencies in today's economy. Because all those tough times, all the things that you went through as a kid, if you learn something from it, and you learn how to tell that story, all of a sudden it becomes a currency to be able to connect with somebody in a new way. Connect with somebody that's been through that, that's been through there. And now, one of my mentors said, you know, if somebody's hurt, this is Jim Rohn, he said, if somebody's hurt, you got to start in the hurt. If someone's in trouble, you got to start in the trouble. And he said, if you've never been in trouble, he says, well, I suggest you get in some trouble. He says, go get arrested for something, because if you've never been in that kind of trouble, you can't relate to that part of the world. If you've never gone through the struggle, that breakup, heartbreak, the loss of a loved one, if you've never had that, then how can you find that moment to connect with the person that's going through that right there? I know so many great lenders that have lost everything, bankruptcy, and the humiliation they feel and the shame they feel. And I look at them and I say, wait, hold on. Did you turn it around? They say, well, yeah. But they spent all their energy trying to hide that past instead of saying, look, let me tell you what I went through. I have been there. The amount of credibility built through that story is immeasurable and completely priceless. How many people here have been through tough times? Look around the room and how many hands just went up. Every one of those tough times, most of us, I would guess that we probably spend a lot of our energy trying to avoid talking about those tough times. So I want to challenge you to start talking about them. But I'm going to caution you a little bit too. When I say talk about tough times, I'm not saying, well, I was part of a divorced family growing up. And we're all thinking, yeah, no shit, we all were too. Or at least 50% of us at least, right? No, what I'm saying is to say, you know what, I grew up without a father, and in fact, missed him, but I actually had some really great other people, some really good other father figures around me. Now all of a sudden, somebody that's hearing that didn't grow up with a father, they're inspired by that moment versus brought down. And I'm telling you, sob stories don't work because the world, everybody has a sob story. Everybody does. But if we can find that story of inspiration, that thing that you went through that you can share to move somebody, that's where things get different. And so that's one of my challenges, is when you go out there and meet with the coaches, you get in front of that camera, you think about your marketing, your message, your brand, ask yourself, what am I trying to communicate here? Is this building the ethos that I want? Is it the right camera? Is it the right quality? Is the background good or is it cheesy? I'm not a big fan of green screens. I know some people use them because you ever seen a green screen and said, oh, I can't tell it's a green screen. We all know. Now, there's creative uses of them, which I think I'm all for. But sometimes just a natural background is great. It's there, telling your story. And here's what's cool about Ethos, is your story is one of the most credible and authentic places for you to speak from because you lived that story. They didn't. Tell people on stage when they're coming up and they're super nervous, I'm like, great, tell the audience you're nervous. Why? Because it's authentic. And guess what? We can all relate to being nervous and doing that. Even on video, if you're nervous, guys, the world's changed. I'm trying to do some video, so you forgive me if I'm a little bit nervous, but here's what's going through my mind today. And all of a sudden, I can listen to that versus the person you know is nervous and is trying to pretend to not be. And we can't get our mind off the fact that they're not authentic with what's going on. And so all of those different pieces are elements that I want us to think about when we go here today. And so I want to talk a little bit about how the marketing game has really transitioned. I'm going to see if this slide is up there, but I'm going to talk about it. How many people here have heard of a marketing funnel? Right? We've all heard about that marketing funnel, right? It's the funnel that comes in, right? And marketing does efforts to get people to come in that funnel, and then sales takes over at some point, and at the bottom spits out a customer. Now, a lot of thought around marketing right now is that funnel concept has changed, has grown old because of one thing. It sees the customer as an afterthought, with that customer at the bottom as an afterthought. And so a lot of new minds came together. If you haven't heard of a company called HubSpot, I'm not selling HubSpot at all. I'm not even recommending. You got some great things here, but from a philosophy standpoint, in fact, I'm going to test this here, testing 1, 2, 3. Did we fix that? Because it'd be a lot easier to speak that way. They came up with this concept called the flywheel. Now, here's one thing we know for sure, is that we all have to turn and find strangers. Do you guys agree with that? We have to find strangers, and we got to turn those strangers into prospects, because those prospects we can actually talk to. And then if we do our job right, we can turn the prospects into customers, but most of us stop there. We take a stranger, become a prospect, and then they become a customer. But the ultimate goal is to turn that customer into a promoter so they talk to other strangers for us, because now that cycle continues. But we have to think a little deeper. In fact, this event was built around this concept of going, let's go a little deeper. Because for us to be able to turn strangers into prospects, we have to be able to attract them. Everything this expert panel was talking about, I got a confession, by the way. Was there 7 a.m. this morning. I was here yesterday at 4 listening to the panel, and I'm supposed to be the MC, and I'm just in the back just working on my presentation, and every single thing they said, I'm thinking to myself, damn, I'm not doing that. Yeah, my business page sucks. Man, I haven't even looked, oh God, like literally every single thing they said, I wasn't doing. And so when we think about how do we attract, that's part of the marketing game. But once we attract them, we have to be able to engage them in new ways. Because everybody, we can be attracted, but how are we engaged in the customer journey? How are we engaged with what they're thinking and what's current for them at that moment? And then once we do that, the big question is how do we retain? And you see the 3 elements of the theme of this Activate conference. Now, without going into too much detail, I want to go one level deeper here. To do that, a big paradigm shift has got to happen in your business. See, in the past, marketing, sales, and service all worked separately together. Marketing's job was to go out there, find audiences, and bring leads. I can't tell you how many conversations I've been in around what is a lead. Can we define a lead? And then 38 definitions come out. Salespeople have their definition of a lead. Marketing has their definition of a lead. Loan origination software has their definition of a lead, which is completely messed up. A lead is not an application. Sorry, a lot of stuff happened before that application. I digress. But now, so marketing used to be, all right, here's a lead to sales. Don't talk to me again. I did my job. Sales says, thanks for the lead. This is not a lead. Fine, I'll see what we can do with it. And then if they convert that lead, they have it over to service and said, I made the sale. Don't talk to me. You go do your job. And service is left by itself to try to understand that. That paradigm has to change. Marketing, service, and sales need to start working together in a way that puts them all on the same track. Marketing needs to be thinking about service messages, needs to be thinking from the eyes and ears of a sales professional. Service needs to be thinking sales for upselling, for new opportunities, for something to tell sales, hey, by the way, your client is upset about X. Our service levels right now are being publicized, because before service levels, somebody got upset. You know what they did? They told 10 people. Now when they get upset, they can tell millions just by typing. And you know what's interesting is that I've come to find, see, my background is in behavioral neuroscience, and so I look at what's the emotional reason why somebody turns to the internet versus turns to the person who sold them. It's because the person who sold them wouldn't listen. In life, we don't need to be right. When they said I worked with 100,000 people, our company has been through 100,000 people telling some of the toughest stories, whether it be unions and leadership and management, you name it. And I've come to find out one thing is that people don't even need to be right. They just need to feel heard. And if someone's not here to hear them in the tough moments, you're missing an opportunity. And even the research will tell you if a customer had a poor experience, but you're there to listen and you're there to remedy that situation, their experience, perception, skyrockets because people can relate to mistakes. But those elements all need to work together. There's another challenge when it comes to that. What do you get when you exceed a customer's expectations? It's a question for you. I hear repeat business, referrals, loyalty. Well, here's what you really get. You get a customer with higher expectations. Let me explain. I heard that conversation with the CEO of Visa. And he said, you get a customer with high expectations. You go to a steakhouse, order your favorite steak. You want it medium rare, so maybe make it Pittsburgh blue. Cool on the inside, charred on the outside, perfect. It comes out and it's well done. And you just paid $85 for the steak. How you feeling? Upset. Manager comes out and says, Mr. Rodriguez, how was the steak? I said, well, I just kind of do one. You ever do one of those? Because you don't want to be that guy who goes, throws the plate at him. Horrible. You don't want to be that guy, right? So you kind of do one of those like, well, you know, it's and you kind of show him the inside, right? And he's like, immediately sees, you know what, let me clear that up. I am so sorry, we'll get you another one. He comes out 5 minutes later with a new steak the way it's supposed to be done. How you feeling? Happy. In fact, he takes it another next level up, and he comps the entire meal. Your whole party's going, wow, this place is amazing. You go out and you tell a person or two, then you forget about them. Then you go to the steakhouse next month, order the perfect Pittsburgh blue steak. Comes out medium rare. What are you expecting? A free meal. Think about that. The game has changed. And I'm not saying stop service. I'm saying keep upping your game. We have to keep pushing ourselves to do new things. And so as we see this flywheel, what's the target though? Because before, the customer was an afterthought. In this, what I want you to think about is the customer experience is the name of the game here. What is that customer experience? There's a real simple tool that you can do. When I say simple, it's so simple that you're not going to do it. But I dare you to take your team on a Saturday, come into the office, get a ream of paper, and you get a long hallway there, and you say, let's take one sheet of paper and every single touch point that anybody touches us, let's put it in this order. Let's put it out there. And then you know what people forget? How about when you walk in? You ever walked into someone's office, in fact, the foyer area, and you smell mold? And immediately you're thinking, what a junky place. But you're walking to an office and they have those lavender plants there, eucalyptus, and you walk in, you're just like, this place is cool. Those are touch points. Those are little areas where, and in fact, if you understand that our olfactory, our nose, is directly tied to our limbic system, and our limbic system is in charge of our values and our emotions. If you want to affect somebody emotionally, affect them through their nose. You got to watch out those things. All those little elements make a difference. But what we're trying to do is think about this as that whole, what they call a flywheel, where we're affecting all those different elements in play. And I highly urge you to Google this stuff, Google ethos, pathos, and logos, and talk about those different elements. So I want to do two things. I've got about 9 minutes. So I want to give you something that we can do, because a lot of you, how many here are planning on doing video? Show me hands. Okay, good. How many people here are planning on doing video, but you know you're not gonna? How many? Okay. All right, just checking. Just checking. So here's why I want to give you some things that are very simple. Okay. At first, I just need a volunteer, somebody that'd be willing to come up here, because body language is kind of important. Who's willing to? Maria? Okay, yeah, come on up. Yeah, please. Let's give Maria a big round of applause. Welcome. I'm going to have you stand right here. Good to see you. You having fun? All right.
Absolutely.
Good, good. So now, don't move at all. So pause right there, right? So now, now I should have warned you.
That's all right.
So this is like René's zone here. This is kind of like the place where, can I give you some quick feedback?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is what she knows. So you got to stay exactly where. She's in a very common position that we get into when we first start things. It's called the fig leaf. Now, if you don't know what a fig leaf is, go back to Adam and Eve days, right? Right? And it's a very common thing. So let's say when somebody walks in, we're having this conversation, and let's say, Anthony Casa walks in, or Matt Ishbia, and people, oh yes, sir, how are you? All of a sudden, it's a place of submission. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to raise your hands just a little bit higher. Oh no, she's even going to the power pose, right? Okay, she's saying, screw that, I'm going here. So she's in right now what we call the Wonder Woman pose, right? And so now what's interesting about this is research, we know that what we think affects our body, right? If I'm sad, you can see it in the body. How many people here want to read minds? Show me hands. Okay, yeah, some people are like, I don't want to know anything that's being thought. But we all have the desire, right? And so now don't get out of the fig leaf. Yeah? You can go here, or you can even go right here, right there. See, now all of a sudden there. So what happens if we understand, if we want to read the mind, we have to start reading the body first. Right? Because we know somebody walks in and we just know that something is there. They feel submissive to what's going on. But now somebody walks in and they're here, we can see this. Or somebody that is looking like this, there, here. What if I came up here and I was like, so I'm going to talk to you guys about being credible and authentic. Right? So, see, now I can say the right stuff, but if my body isn't there, it sends the wrong message. That's what we call ethos and delivery, not just in content. Content's what we say, but it's in delivery. You're in fig leaf again. So here's the cool part. I'm gonna have you step up here for me. So we have what's called the influence zone, which is from your belly button right up to your eyes. And so if your hands are in this area, you're influencing. Watch what happens if I'm here. Guys, I'm so excited about being here today. There's a lot of stuff that I'm thinking about, like all the people here are good, and those all the way in the back, it's awesome. It's kind of weird, isn't it, right? But all of a sudden, if I say, hey, I'm really excited to be here today, and all the people in the back, because I'm in this influence zone, there's something weird that happens here. It tells our brain that this person is passionate and authentic, right? And so now, don't move again. Did you play sport?
I did.
What sport?
A lot. I'm actually training for triathlon.
Okay, well, that's pretty awesome, right? So now, if you played a sport, would this be how you stand in a sport, in basketball?
No.
How would you stand?
If I'm defending.
Okay, so if you were to stand, you'd stand with 2 feet, right? So now, because we had you back here. So what I tell people, if your body's imbalanced, your message is imbalanced, right? So always here. Boom, now, all of a sudden, do you see a difference? Yes or no? Yes. All right, good, you see a difference. Now, can you tell the audience what you do and what makes you unique? I'm gonna give you a microphone though here. She's like, how cool is it to see someone that excited to do that, right? So I'm gonna give you this. Tell us what you do and what makes you unique, but keep your hands right there.
So I'm the operations manager at Black Diamond Mortgage in Whitefish, Montana. Do you guys know where Whitefish is? It's pretty awesome. I actually originally...
So pause there. Okay, so now, good. That was good. That was confident, right? We're gonna add one more thing. So see how you're still leaning like this? So we're going to try that. Now this is I'm just doing this to show what's going on. Yeah. We're going to stand. Now we're going to give you a smile. See, we have a beautiful smile there. So now we're going to do that again, smile, and then we're going to add one more thing afterwards. Go ahead. So what did you do? What makes you unique?
I forgot the unique part. I am Maria Phelps with Black Diamond Mortgage in Whitefish, Montana.
So pause there. So we had 3 movements of the feet. We had a step forward and a step back, and then a step forward again. And now we're dancing, right? Right. So, okay. So, you ever seen a PowerPoint slide that animates somebody like their first PowerPoint they've ever created? Then somebody they learned the animation place, and then things start spinning and stuff. Our body is our PowerPoint. And we have unconscious things that are happening. You ever met somebody that's like, all right, guys, I'm so excited to be here today. It's like, yeah, all right, so it's good. And so, yeah, right? All of this is unnecessary. I'm not saying you're doing that, by the way.
No, it's...
You have great presence, by the way, so just stay with me. And so somebody's doing this. This is what we call self-soothing. It tells you that they're nervous, right? And so what we want to do is eliminate all the animations only when necessary. If I need something, I can use that animation. Right? See, I raise it. All that stuff is purposeful animation, just like a PowerPoint. So we have your smile is one animation we want, right? And then we're going to do one last thing. I want you to take a step forward as you begin, a big step.
Oh,
okay? So watch this. So the difference would be, hi, I work for, see, I'm slanted back, versus this, all of a sudden it's there. Now, the timing of the step is kind of important. You want to time your words to the first step. Okay? All right, so tell us what you do with a big smile.
Maria Phelps with Black Diamond Mortgage. I'm the operations manager, and we are located in Whitefish, Montana. We are a small company who is dedicated to our clients.
So pause there. All right, so better, right? So we're going to do one last thing. So you're an operations manager?
Yes.
In Whitefish, Montana. Okay, and what makes you unique?
We are dedicated to our clients.
So now pause there. So she says she's dedicated to clients. So I want you to listen to this. When somebody tells you what they're proud of or what makes them unique, I want you to think about it differently. I want you to think about it as that is an indication of your values. Would you say dedication to clients, was that a value of yours?
Yeah.
And what does that mean, dedication?
Gosh, we look at every client very uniquely, and we work on a lot of tough deals. We don't turn people down very easily.
So pause there, because the other stuff, how many people here say they look at tough deals and don't turn people down? Okay, so, right, most people. But now, we look at clients uniquely. This isn't value proposition yet. It's not unique yet, but watch what happens. Where did you learn to look at people uniquely? Not just clients, but anyone.
Where did I learn?
Was it your parents? Mentors, coaches?
I would say probably my dad, actually.
Tell us about your dad.
Yeah, he's a retired captain of the Army.
Tell
My
us about
dad
your
is a retired captain of the U.S. Army.
And what did he teach you about looking at people uniquely?
My dad taught me to look at people for who they really are, not for what you may see on the outside, but what's inside.
All right, so now can you imagine that there's probably a story there?
I got a little emotional.
Oh,
My dad is my hero.
So now, can you see that's called pathos? It's authentic, you can't fake it, right? So now, all we're gonna do is a little sequence change to function what we call speaking from the heart, but in the sequence of the mind. And so what happens, we were just speaking from the mind, here's my name, here's what I do, and everyone goes, who cares? But now, you go, my father is one of the most important people in my life. He was a captain in the U.S. Army, and he taught me a very unique thing, which was to look at people for who they are beyond the surface, but really listen to who they were. And that really, and I guess I never thought about that, might have been the impetus of why we do what we do today, is we started a company that wants to take a look at people individually for who they are, not just their credit score, not just where they come from, not how they dress, but who they are, because that opens us up to look at tougher deals, the ones that might take longer, we might make less money, but at the end of the day, we're fulfilling the mission of serving our clients in a unique way. And there's your story, right?
Wow.
Let's give her a big round of applause. That was awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So what you saw there, as I close this out, what you saw there was what happens when you put ethos, pathos, and logos together in a sequence that begins with your heart, in the sequence that works with the mind. Because we have to connect first before we can listen to what's valuable. But all of us, we speak backwards. Here's what I do and here's how I do it. and we expect an action. We tell us, here's our rate. Right now, I'm going to tell you one last piece here is that we got to be careful. If you don't market to your audience and right now you're posting about low interest rates, you're training your clients that that's your value proposition. And the same people that do that are the same ones that come knocking on my door saying, René, how do you overcome rate? I say, well, let's begin by not glorifying it. Let's talk about the value of a low interest rate to save money. There's a message behind that. I challenge you to find that. But here's my message. Learn to speak from this, which is your memory, where you are, what makes you who you are. And tie that into what your values are and in your message today. And then listen to your coaches out there and find a strong call to action. But thank you for this, and I really look forward to working more with you. I'll be walking around here as well.